When you're taking student loans out for hundreds of thousands of dollars, that adds even more pressure to your desire to succeed. And unfortunately, all of these things take the pleasure out of learning, because learning can be a lot of fun and enjoyable. But when you're faced with that kind of pressure, both financially and academically, it does hurt you.
Mm-hmm. And so how did that kind of pressure affect you?
I think I handled it well initially because it was new and I had a lot of energy and I was very, very motivated. However, towards the end of the second year, that's when I really started feeling the pressure because they changed the way some of the classes were structured. And so it was kind of cutting into my traditional way of learning. And I was resisting that, which is never a good thing. Anytime someone's resisting, you're putting additional stress and pressure on yourself. Now I'm here and it's more difficult and my grades are slipping a little bit. All those things started happening. And I think that's when I started panicking a little bit towards the end. And I think that's kind of what hurt me going into my step one as well, because I was pretty burnt out by the time I hit my step one board exam.
That's interesting. You're a medical student and you're feeling burnt out.
Yeah, exactly. It starts early, right? Burnout, it starts early. And a lot of these things about burnout, though, I feel like are systemic problems. And lately, what we observe as physicians is that a lot of the burden falls to you as the individual to figure out how to recharge your batteries and how to avoid feeling burnt out. But there's not enough responsibility on the systems for some of these things and some of the ways that not only medical school training is, but also the way medicine's practiced.
You were finishing up your medical school and you hit this wall. How did you overcome this wall? And what do you mean by you hit the wall? Can you explain that a little bit more in detail?
Yeah, so I think hitting the wall is when you wake up in the morning and you don't feel like doing the things you need to do. I remember vividly even having some like nocturnal panic attacks during the end where I would wake up in the middle of the night short of breath and have to get out of bed and kind of gather myself and calm myself down to go back to sleep. And part of that was the pressure from the school, like we talked about, but part of that was my own pressure because I always wanted to be great. I always wanted to be perfect. That is a dangerous game to get into with medicine because it's so hard to operate on that level on a day-to-day basis. You're really putting a lot of stress and pressure on yourself.
Mm-hmm. You said that when you finished medical school, you changed the way you approach things. How did you approach residency that was different than when you were in medical school?
One key point I think everybody who graduates medical school should take away from it is that once you finish the training of medical school, you feel a little bit more like you belong. When you're in medical school, you're trying to find your place. But once you become a resident, that part kind of goes away. Now you start to become a valuable part of the team. So that part changes for you. But from my own mental perspective, I decided to pick up back on some of the hobbies and interests that I had. I decided, you know what? I need to go out with friends for those occasional dinners. I need to continue my workouts, which were very important. Basically, I wanted to keep those things that mattered to me in my life, and I just made the decision to do so.
So it was an intentional, conscientious effort to really incorporate things outside of the day-to-day of residency.
For us, by us, and just for us, this is hope for med.